Obviously, the markets today are very eventful, and we want to get back to that quickly. But before we do that, let's get some learning in. So this is the Playbook Checkup. What we do is we go over a playbook, an archived playbook trade by one of the people on our desks. And Deb has done that, and we are going to point out what she did well, point out perhaps what she can do better, and certainly those of you listening may decide to co-opt a trade like this for your own trading. So in terms of the big picture, let's bring Deb in and start going over the trade. Deb.
Thank you, Bella. On the day of the trade, the SPY had been in a consolidation range, and it broke below that consolidation range the day before the trade. And in the morning of the trade, the futures were negative, and the overseas markets were trading lower. The SPY gapped down, but it traded up to a positive level, and then in the afternoon, it sold off and broke below another key support level at 182. As you can see from this chart, with the mouse, the consolidation range is between 189 and 183. So the day before it broke below it, and then the morning of the trade it gapped below, but there's a big wick that comes up, and then it came back down. Initially, the position that I was in was a long position because I had seen an unusual hold on the bid at 20. Basically at 29, but when the price broke out of that consolidation range and then soon reversed back below it, the trade for me became a short.
So initially you were long.
I was initially long, yes.
And then you got short.
Yes.
Okay.
This trade is closed into the opening drive support low.
But Deb, how can that be? you had set in your mind that this stock must go up, and here you are now getting short.
I'm flexible. It was such a strong support level, and and 29 held for a long time, and there was a lot of volume done at it. And when that level broke, to me, the buyer is gone, and to me, it was a short.
Okay. And look, we don't really know where these stocks are going. We can develop a thesis, but price has to confirm our thesis. Really what we do is we find places where stocks will move off of certain prices, and this was one of those prices. We don't really care if it goes up or down. It became a good opportunity to trade this from that 28.98 area.
Yeah, and then it didn't work the way I figured it would. So I changed my direction. The intraday fundamentals, HRB trades with a beta about 1.2, has good volume of 3.1 million shares a day, and an average trading range of 0.9, which isn't a huge range, but it was a news day. It had a short interest of 1.8, which isn't a whole lot. That day, they reported that they had reached a definitive agreement to divest its bank, and it made an impact to their earnings, about 7 to 9 cents per share annually. So the news caused HRB to gap up during the pre-market, but then it began to step lower on the open, and it drove down just below the flat line after the open. So as you can see on the longer...
So I guess the market was suggesting, based on the move, that we are about to see that divestiture showed weakness to the underlying business of HRB.
Well, initially it showed that it was strength. They took it as positive, but then I think HRB just succumbed with the market direction.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, good.
So on the daily chart, it opened up here, it gapped up, and then throughout the day, it just, it went negative.
And so where are the SPYs? Where are the SPYs as this HRB is going down?
Well, here's the intraday chart of HRB. Here's the gap up, and then it went to the flat line on the opening drive. It went, and this yellow line is the previous day's close, and this blue line up here is the open. So it went down to the previous day's close and then bounced. And this is the area where I saw the held bid, which was right around 10 o'clock. So if we go back to the SPY chart, actually, I don't have an intraday chart of the SPY, but the SPY was in a, moving up with this wick on the open, and it was moving up with the SPY at that time, but then the SPY started to sell off, and that's about when I believe this trade also decided to
And SPY is
sell off.
below that important range that had developed.
Yes. SPY
So
in a longer term was
so
negative.
there's overall weakness in the marketplace.
Yeah. It was not looking great. And for just a brief moment, it tried to get back into that consolidation range, but it didn't hold. And then this is where it broke down below that held bid area, and then it came back down towards the flat line and overshot it, went negative, and then it came back and it tested VWAP for a little while, and then it just traded down the rest of the day. When I was reading the tape, I did notice that 28.98 was giving us a bounce every single time. There was a lot of prints going off at 29, and then when the price broke above that consolidation area, I went long. But then when the offers dropped below 29.98, I reversed my position. I have a hotkey, a Shift R, that allows me just to go instantly from long to short with the same number of shares that I had in my position. And the offers continued to drop, so I added to my short position. Here's my trade. I was initially long right here as it came up, and I started off with 200 shares, the first one at 29.09 and then 29.14. And then when it came back down and broke right here, I reversed. And then when it couldn't hold above 29 and it started to go down, I added another 200 shares at 28.89 and 28.82. And then as it started going down, I started to take those first 200 shares off to half of my position off to cover my risk. And so I covered around 28.77 and then 28.69, and then I got a nice little whoosh towards the support level from the opening drive low, and it came right through it. But then when it started to come back up through it, I was thinking we might get a bounce, so I took off another 100 shares. At this point, I still have 100 shares, my original 100, our core position of 100 shares. So when the price of the stock went back below that, it couldn't hold above the previous low, I added 200 shares. And then I covered 100 of those at 28, which I felt was like a round even number that it could bounce from. And then it came back, it went below it, and then it started coming back up. So I covered another 100 at 27.91. And then to me, the trade was done when this candle was above these other two, and it was above the 5-period moving average. So I covered the last of my 100 shares at 28.
So it's breaking the intraday trend line for you.
Yes.
When you say the 5-minute moving average,
it's a 5-period, so whatever chart it is, and on this chart it is a 1-minute chart, so it's a 1 minute. It is the 1 minute.
And so, how do you feel about using a longer time frame intraday for an intraday break of the trend line?
That would have been good for this trade. When I was initially in this trade, I really wasn't sure, what it was going to do. But I could have certainly switched to like a 5-minute chart and held that 100 shares, because later in the day, if you go back to what it did, I was covering in here. It did get quite a big bounce, and I did go short again when it broke down back below this. So I was short for here, later in the day. But the trade that I wanted to highlight was, this initial move from reversing from here and covering into. It was to me, it was still kind of the open, and So not knowing if it's just part of the opening drive, if we're going to get a reversal, I covered based on the 1 minute chart.
How big is that move from 28.98?
It was I think it was a point.
Okay. That's a big move in a $30 stock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's 28, 30, 29, 28. I was covering this, yeah. It was a point.
Okay, good. So you're in the right stock. You're finding the right catalyst to put on the trade, and you're doing a good job of understanding overall the market impact on your trade as well. But I mean, as you can see, these trades are easier when you're in the right stocks.
Yeah. And when you get the right direction, eventually.
Well, you didn't originally, but it didn't matter.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, so other than being a little slow to reverse my trade and not taking off the 100 long sooner, I was very happy with the trade. I liked how I added to my short position into the momentum, and I like how I took off shares to cover my risk, then took off, except one lot, into the support area from the opening drive low. And I'm really pleased that I added more size as it held below the opening drive low support area and took off as the trade began to show signs of a bounce. And I am happy I covered the last 100 shares on the reversal candle confirmation before HRB really started to bounce. And then as I gain more confidence in this setup, I can add more size at the beginning of the trade and hold more into the target area for the trade.
Great. Solid. Solid. All right, good. So we kind of skipped over this, but it's an important point, which is you don't have to be wedded to your initial position. I think flipping is something that should be saved for very, very significant levels. So if it hadn't have been an unusual hold on the bid, I don't advocate flipping like Deb did, but since it was worth flipping. It's interesting that for a particular, so oftentimes when news comes out like in HRB, people try and spend a lot of time figuring out whether or not it's going to go up or down, and you don't have to do that a lot of times. You can just find the spots where there's a big battle, like at that 28.98, and let the market tell you if there's more buyers, there's more aggressive buyers or sellers, and then follow that movement away from that important level, that important intraday level, that inflection point. And you can see that was obviously the right thing to do there. All right, on that note, markets are a little bit crazy. Get back to them, trade well. We will see you guys soon. Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Mike Bellafiore, author of The Playbook and One Good Trade, co-founder of SMBU and SMB Capital here in New York City. If you want to learn more about SMB, please go check out smbu.com. Check out our blog where we share tons of trading tips, trading stories, trades we're in, trading anecdotes, and also take the time to sign up for our 10-day free training program, which we offer to the trading community at smbu.com. We hope you enjoy it. We hope to see you on the site. Trade well.